Am I the jerk for ignoring my mom and siblings after they kept the fact Dad was dying a secret from me and then planned his funeral without any input from me? I 20 male moved to a different country last year for my education. My dad was my biggest supporter in doing it, and he knew it was a dream of mine to see more of the world outside the US. And when the chance appeared, he was the very first person I told, and the person who pushed for me to do it. I stayed in contact regularly with him, mom, and my siblings, 25 female, 23 male, and 18 female. 3 weeks ago, I got the call that Dad had passed away. He had cancer, and everyone knew but me. My mom and siblings said he hadn't wanted me to know because he hadn't wanted me to leave college and come home to be with him. But I never got to say goodbye. Things had been quieter lately, but I was busy, and everyone at home said they were too. My cousin said Dad wanted to tell me before it was too late, but the rest of my family said no, and Dad was too sick to do it. My cousin said he wanted to tell me himself and was pressured not to by a bunch of relatives, including my mom and siblings. I was already furious with them, but then they went and planned everything without me, minus a few details Dad had planned himself. They still wanted me home, but they left me out of the funeral plans. And that's when I exploded and told them not to talk to me and not to expect me home for the funeral because I didn't want to be around them. Instead, I did my own thing to remember Dad. That was awful because a part of me is angry at him too, and that hurts because I loved him so much and he was my #1 supporter. My mom and siblings keep trying to talk to me, but I've ignored every call and text because I want to yell at them and tell them they're all passed away to me and they can never make up for this, and I can't figure out if it's grief talking or not, but I have never been this angry. And now I have 2 angry aunts coming for me for doing this to my mom when she lost her husband and my siblings when they lost Dad too. In my aunt's eyes, I'm punishing my mom and siblings for Dad passing away and making this all about me. So am I the jerk for ignoring my family? I now manage the guy who hired me, and I'm afraid he might quit over it. I was recently promoted to a department director role, and while I'm very excited about my new responsibilities, I have a dilemma that I need some help with. One of my direct reports is my former boss who hired me into the company. Backstory. I've been here for 8 years. I was hired into a junior role by a middle manager in the department. Call him Tom. He was a great boss, and I learned so much in the years I worked for him. He's an all-around terrific supervisor who coaches well, provides clear goals, gives flexibility to meet those goals, provides opportunities to learn and grow, advocates for his team, the works. He's also a really good talent spotter. I counted it up, of the 15 people Tom's hired in the past decade, all but a couple have risen in the ranks at our company, in our division and others where division executives have recruited them. After a few years working for him, a promotion opened up in our department and Tom urged me to apply. I got it, became his peer, and built my own effective team using his style as my model. Last year, our department director, Mary, announced her intention to retire, and as is corporate policy, the job was posted. Tom applied, and I wasn't going to, but another colleague encouraged me to go for it. I did, impressed our relatively new division VP, and got the job. Tom congratulated me, and I prepared to take the job. Days after my promotion was announced, I found out through a colleague who is a mutual friend of both Tom and mine that Tom was very disappointed, even though he hasn't expressed that to me. Apparently, Mary and the previous division VP, who retired a year ago, had told Tom that he was a shoo-in to be promoted to Mary's role when she retired. In fact, I was told that he turned down some outside opportunities in the past couple years that would have paid more because he was anticipating getting this promotion. As I've stated, he's a great employee and manager who would have done a great job. I had no idea that this was Tom's expectation, and when I learned, I felt a little guilty about even applying for the job. A few weeks later, I had to do the annual update of our internal succession plan documents, and Tom was listed as the designated preferred internal successor for my job. Tom has been nothing but professional and complimentary with me, but now I'm really concerned about how I can manage him effectively. I really need him to stay. He has long-standing personal relationships with all the key clients my department works with. I led the operations side, so I was less involved with clients. If he left suddenly, we would be in a real bind, partly because of his success with hiring good talent. That good talent has moved up within the company, and now his team is all relative newbies hired in the past few years who are all still building their own client relationships. I recently met with HR and our division VP, and they emphasized the need to keep Tom on staff due to his role as a talent spotter and for his client relationships. I asked about getting him a raise and seeing if we can do an intermediate promotion, but our corporate structure is pretty stratified and there's really nothing between his level and mine. What do you recommend to navigate the potential awkwardness of managing my former boss, as well as keeping him happy despite his disappointment in not getting this job and his missing out on the raise that came with it? Update, 1 month later. Tom gave notice this week. He has gotten a job as head of sales and marketing for a small but fast-growing startup that produces a similar set of products to the one my team is responsible for. It sounds like a perfect setup for him. They are ramping up with additional product development. He'll get to lead a big team. He will be paid more, plus get equity, which we don't have available to us. And even though the company is based elsewhere, he'll work remote from our city. Tom's timing was very strategic. Our company had a very broad non-compete in place that would have barred Tom from making the move he did, but there's been a case with a former employee challenging the non-compete. A week before Tom gave notice, the non-compete was invalidated in court, and Tom gave his notice before the company was able to draft a narrower one for everyone to sign. It seems clear he was waiting for that decision to make his move. I am actually worried. He knows our clients really well, and Tom's new company's product is frankly superior to our legacy product. I had hoped to get more client exposure for my newer team members, but there's only so much opportunity in the space of a couple months. We'll see what happens. For what it's worth, I kept trying to get my boss and HR to give me something tangible to incentivize him. I raised this with my boss in person at every one-on-one and documented my concern that Tom was a flight risk in emails at least once a week. And I'm more than worried. I think I should leave myself. After Tom gave notice, my boss and HR hastily put together a counteroffer. That still didn't equal his new offer. I told them this was a bad move and I thought it would be tone-deaf disrespectful to Tom, but my VP directed me to make it. Tom obviously refused. Then the COO, who my VP reports to, came to my office and said that Tom was very important to the company and asked why I hadn't done more to keep him. I was so frustrated with this, I told her that I had been pushing and pushing for something to offer Tom and had been turned down, and that I would be happy to share the email back and forth. She responded that money isn't everything. If you want to succeed, you need to create a team culture that is magnetic to people like Tom. Well, that sealed it for me. I'm a manager, not a miracle worker. I guess I wasn't exposed to this kind of weirdness from our higher-ups before my promotion, but I don't want to stick around if those are the expectations I have to labor under. I'm trying to figure out my own exit now. I'm really grateful in all this for the grace with which Tom handled this. When he gave notice, he confirmed everything I'd heard from our mutual friend, but emphasized that he had no hard feelings against me, and that he thought I was a great team leader and manager. He said he would have been happy to work under me if the company had come through with the money to match his promised promotion, and that he was leaving not because of me, but because of the broken promise. I asked why he hadn't raised the concerns to me before, and he said he didn't want to put me in an awkward position or feel bad about my own achievement. He only brought it up because I asked in his notice conversation. Update 2, 8 months after first update. Over the 6 months since I last wrote to you, things deteriorated for my team. We lost about a quarter of our contracts that were renewing during this period and only won a single new one. While half-heartedly job searching during this time, I built out a strategic plan for renewing our product and recapturing market share from Tom's company and other competitors, but had a hard time getting buy-in from my still fairly new VP division chief, who was concerned about the top-line revenue figures. My argument was that we weren't going to beat a new competitor without investing in a new version of our product. But VP and management spent too long, in my opinion, weighing all the options. The coronavirus ended up making the decision for us. Management entered extreme cost-cutting mode, looked at the trend line for my product, and put it in maintenance or legacy mode. They laid off the entire team of 16, except for 2 product engineers who will continue to maintain the software during the legacy period with our existing clients. On April 15th, I was out of a job. Not a week went by when I got an email from Tom. His startup has been growing like crazy, bringing in new clients over the past 6 months, and in response to the pandemic, they built, in a matter of days, a new software product to help our clients streamline delivery of a big part of the federal relief funds. New clients are joining even faster than before. The company is now 100% remote and bringing on new staff, and needed someone to bring some order to the behind-the-scenes chaos, so Tom recommended me to be head of internal operations, overseeing HR, purchasing, facilities, systems administration, that kind of thing, a role as in many startups previously divided between several executives who were now too busy and needed to focus on their core duties in engineering, design, sales, etc. I started 2 weeks ago and have been loving it despite some 60-plus hour weeks bringing order to the chaos. Not to mention I got a big pay raise, equity, etc., and I get to keep working in my city indefinitely. I never expected that I would end up Tom's peer again at another business. But I feel so grateful for the chance to build something new, and I am very glad I invested in keeping a good relationship with Tom despite the awkwardness of the situation last summer. It paid off. Would I be the jerk if I told my ex that his new girlfriend told me to back off already? A few days ago, my 30 female ex's 32 male new girlfriend, 27 female, texted me out of the blue and told me first politely, and then not so much to back off and not contact my ex anymore, because apparently it's disrespectful and I should be over it by now. Some context here. My ex and I broke up roughly 6 years ago, but we are still friends. Why? Because we didn't have a reason not to. Our breakup wasn't a dramatic one, just two people who'd been together since their late teens realizing that they wanted different things in life. But since we still got along great and he had his daughter, my niece, who I basically helped raise, we decided to stay friends. The reason his girlfriend's message surprised me as much as it did is that it came really out of the blue. I didn't even know she had my number, and she has absolutely zero reason to be suspicious or anything. My ex and I still hang out, yes, but always with either my niece or other friends. And on occasion, we go to school events for my niece, like when she has a performance or something. I genuinely don't think I've done anything with him one-on-one since before our breakup, I think. The most one-on-one he and I ever do is when he drops off or picks up my niece. She has a room at my place, in case that matters, and we wait for her to get her things. But that's all. Also, his girlfriend and I have met before at my niece's and then my ex's birthday, and she was nice both times. We didn't talk much, just regular, "Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. That's a lovely dress, bye." So I didn't think she had any issues with me. On top of that, I'm dating someone new too. So yeah, I'm not sure what her deal is at all. And when she texted me, my arse was halfway to giving my ex a ring and telling him to maybe have a chat with his girlfriend, because something is definitely wrong, but another part of me really doesn't want to interfere with his relationship like that. My ex is a good dude, and from what my niece told me and from what I've seen at the 2 birthdays, he really adores her. Like, he genuinely gets puppy eyes when he looks at her, which that man never does. He deserves to be this happy, he really does. And most importantly, my niece likes her too. That wasn't the case with the 2 other girlfriends he'd had since we broke up, so this is a huge issue I need to consider too. Telling him would put all of this in jeopardy, but like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm not going to cut contact with either my niece or my ex just because she wants me to. No way. But she was rather insistent on the matter, so I don't think she'll leave it alone either. My flatmate is team, tell him and get it over with, but she's, with love, a bit of a prick, so I'm hesitant to take her word on anything. Update 1 day later. First, I did end up calling my ex after I came back from work last night. I was insanely nervous because I still felt, and still do feel, bad about rocking the boat. But yeah, you guys were right. It should be his decision if he wants to cut me off, not his girlfriend's. Now, after some regular chatter, I went in and told him what happened and even read him some of the messages his girlfriend had sent me. He didn't say much as I did. Not that I expected him to. That man has a daily average of 15 words, 25 if he's feeling very chatty. And mostly just listened quietly. I couldn't gauge his reaction, so I kind of ended up rambling and mentioning some of the things you guys had advised me to. You know how he can step back if that's what he needs. I'd respect his decision on that, but how I'd appreciate it if we could keep my niece out of it and all that. The later part is kind of where he spoke up mostly to snort, "You idiot." And then he told me he already knew that she'd texted me because my boyfriend told him they're friends and coworkers. My boyfriend apparently noticed that I was more upset than I wanted to let on and asked my ex to call me because something happened between her, me, and my ex's girlfriend. Which makes sense. By the way, I've asked my boyfriend if my behavior with my ex was ever uncomfortable or inappropriate after the girlfriend texted me, just to make sure I wasn't doing something wrong without being aware of it. And I have been stewing over this mess for like nigh a week, so yeah. Not surprised my boyfriend noticed something was up. My ex chose to wait until I said something myself before breaching the topic, though. My boyfriend didn't tell him what exactly happened, but my ex sort of figured it was something like her telling me to cut contact. He then, once again, told me that I'm an idiot and that I should have told him immediately, because this wasn't on. The 2 of them, so he and his girlfriend, talked about this even before they officially got together, and he'd made it very clear that there was no way in hell he'd be cutting me off because I've been his friend before I was his girlfriend, and I've stayed his friend for long after that. And because I'm basically my niece's mum, or the closest thing she has to a mum. So before they started dating, he told her that she'd have to be cool with that. He'd understand if she wasn't, but he'd not change his mind because I've done the legwork and she hasn't. Now, according to him, she was absolutely fine with it, and even told him that she really liked me and wanted to get to know me more after the birthdays I mentioned prior, so he doesn't know what has gotten into her. I asked him if she mentioned something else at a later time, like that something I did or said made her uncomfortable or feel insecure, but he said no. She also didn't hint at anything. And yes, I asked multiple times would I be the jerk examples just to make sure because, respectfully, my ex isn't great at taking hints. At all. His brain is wired strictly forward, so anything slickly obscure does not ring any bells in head. We pretty much left it at that, and he told me he'd have a chat with her and see what's up, and depending on what it is, he'd let me know. So now we wait. Oh, and we both kind of hope that she left it at contacting me and didn't talk to my niece about this. She's kind of been in a funk all week. but keeps telling us it's nothing, so we kind of assumed it was hormones or stress and told her to take it easy. But since the dates of her bad mood and the girlfriend messaging me line up, we're a bit worried that the she mentioned something or asked my niece to cut me off or whatever. Edit more information. I think a lot of people are confused by my niece being my niece and also my ex's kid. Sorry, I should have reiterated that before things got muddled. A short stack of facts. My ex, 32 male, is a teen dad. He had my niece while he was still in the equivalent of high school. He and I, 30 female, got together roughly a year after she was born, but he only introduced me to her when she was 2.5. Since I was still pretty young then, I wasn't super comfortable with being called mum, so my niece ended up calling me Auntie, my name. This stuck and she still calls me aunt today and I call her niece, but we're not related by blood. Her bio mum is not and has never been in the picture. I did all the mum things from potty training her to seeing most of her firsts to going to her parent-teacher conferences and whatnot. This is why my ex says I'm the closest thing she has to a mother. And to finish it up, my ex and I didn't break up recently. We broke up 6 years ago. We stayed in contact, we've always been friends first, and most importantly, because of my niece. These days, my niece comes to stay with me at least every other week, sometimes more, sometimes less because my ex and I are both chill with her choosing for herself, and she has her own room at my place. Update after 1 month later. A lot of you were asking about my niece and if we ever found out what was bothering her, and yes, we did. My ex dropped off my niece at my place not long after I posted the second update. It was her turn to stay at my place, and she was still in a bad mood just like she'd been this entire time, if not a bit worse. So she didn't even stay to say bye to my ex. She just stomped off into her room and holed herself up for the day. My ex asked me if I could try and have a chat with her while she stayed over because apparently he'd tried and it didn't go over well. I think we were both kind of on edge. Because this isn't usually her style, but then again, teens will teen. Anyway, I told him I'd try and send him on his merry way for now. It took me a couple of days to actually get to the chatting, but eventually she cooled off enough, and with some fine needling and enough ice cream to feed an army, I managed to get some answers. Good news, the girlfriend did not talk to her. Bad news. My niece did overhear the girlfriend bad-mouthing me on the phone, like some of you guessed. The girlfriend apparently didn't know that my niece was home. She came home early from school and the girlfriend didn't hear her come in, so I doubt it was on purpose, but it still happened and my niece did not take it well. She'd been in a bad mood anyway. Just normal teen struggles, mind, including God's help me boy troubles. Does anyone have a handbook on how to handle that? Because I'm not ready. And since my ex took the news like a man going to war, I seriously doubt he's either. And hearing the girlfriend talk bad certainly didn't help. She really didn't want to tell me what exactly the girlfriend said, but it seemed to have been really below the belt. Just going the fact that my niece was angry crying during that part of our chat. I didn't press her to tell me more since it just seemed to upset her, but I did ask her to please tell her dad what was said so that she could get it off of her chest, which she did do after both my ex and I promised that he wouldn't tell me either. I know that's kind of a letdown for some of you, but to be honest, I don't really care. If she wants to talk bad, she can. I'm just happy my niece doesn't have to carry that stuff around on her own anymore. Now, as for my ex and his girlfriend, difficult. It took a while longer for that to get resolved. I actually didn't hear anything back until quite recently, and the end result is kind of meh. The short of it is I was catching strays, that's all. My ex eventually called me and told me that much. He also said that his girlfriend would like to talk to me personally and asked me to hear her out. Which, fine, sure, I'll do that. So, they came to my place about a week ago and we all had tea. Let me tell you, the girlfriend was really nervous the entire time, and I think we spent 20 minutes just talking about the weather before she finally managed to cough up an apology. That apology was then followed by 50 more, no matter how often I told her that it was okay and that I was more than content to just move on. She was thankful, but she asked me if I'd let her explain herself, so I did. The first and probably biggest reason I won't tell you because it goes far beyond me telling you about something. But let it be said. Something sad happened. It wasn't anyone's fault. Nobody did anything wrong. It was just something tragic that happens to some people and couldn't be avoided. That's all. The second reason was that she apparently had a minor dispute with my ex about kind of me, I guess. So from what the two of them told me, the girlfriend texted my ex not long before she first messaged me and asked him if he could pick her up from work because she wasn't feeling well. He told her that yes, he would, but it'd take him a while since he was about to drop my niece off at my place. Now what he meant by that was, the drive will take longer than usual because my name lives at the other end of town. What she took it as was, she is more important than you right now, so you'll have to wait. Honestly, I do not get it either. I wasn't even the reason he was coming over, so I'm not sure why that is how she took it. But okay, fine. She was in a state because of the sad thing. Maybe that's just how it felt at the time. And the third reason is that she feels kind of like the odd one out in my ex's, and thus partially my, friend group, which was making her feel insecure. And that'd be fine. It's human. But her reason for feeling like the odd one out was apparently that she's straight, and most of us are not. In our collective friend group, there's just me, my boyfriend, my ex, we're all bi, and one gay chap plus his boyfriend. The rest are straight. So yeah, we didn't know how she got that idea, and she was honestly very rattled once we'd cleared that up. All of that then collided into one big ball of frustration, and that frustration was then aimed at the easiest target, me. So, she snuck into my ex's phone, got my number, and told me to back off. According to her, she immediately regretted it but didn't know how to fix it until my ex put her on the spot. She also reiterated that she really isn't bothered by me, and that she was being truthful when she'd told my ex that she'd like to get to know me more. I told her that that was fine by me. Yes, this is me cutting her some slack. She overreacted and made a mistake. Things happens. But that she might want to try and talk to my niece before that relationship completely evaporated. But once she settled that, I'm down to meeting for coffee, or hanging out as a group with my niece or whatever. And that is really kind of where we left it. I did ask my ex where his head's at while the girlfriend was off to and how he's feeling, and he told me he's not quite sure yet. He does see where she's coming from and he's happy that she owned up to her mistakes and wanted to apologize and all that, but he's miffed that she even reacted like that in the first place. You know, that she'd rather sneak into his phone and then text me instead of just talking to him. Oh, and he's extremely pissed off about the things she said about me. When my niece overheard her, that is. I didn't ask him more than that because we'd promised my niece, but I did tell him to not let that be his deciding factor, if anything. Apart from that, I didn't pray for more. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit stories. All rights belong to the original author. This video is for narration, entertainment purposes only.